Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another video review or topic or however you want to call this one. This one is more of like a lost media slash trivia type of video, because I find this to be very interesting and very much, worth spreading the word in case anyone has any information on what I'm about to talk about. So I'm gonna take a little detour from my horror reviews. I still have a lot of those coming up that I will do with the following as this week comes on. I mean, as this week goes, oh yeah, my words mixed up. I'll just be uploading random reviews. But anyway, yes, I am talking about Afro Samurai for the second time. Flesh and Bone. Yes, this is a live action fan film that came out around the same time that the official Afro Samurai sequel came out, Resurrection, which I might talk about the Afro Samurai TV show and the Afro Samurai movie because I have a lot to say about that movie. Um, I did do the pilot. One of my first TikToks, I talked about the pilot, which has its own very interesting background. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I might redo that one because I didn't have like the 10-minute mark to like I didn't have enough time to like fully talk about that one. So brief synopsis: Afro Samurai was created by Araki Ozazaki. I know I probably said his name wrong. Who growing up Asian mangaka or Asian author artist. When growing up, he was really infatuated with black culture. I knew when he was younger, he used to grow up watching Soul Train, and that inspired him to create Afro Samurai, which is basically a revenge story. There's only 2 volumes. Basically, Afro, kind of a spoiler, but his father was the strongest warrior in the world. The headbands represent whatever number you are represents how strong you are apparently. And they're told to have some type of supernatural powers. Um, but his father is defeated by at the time the number 2 warrior, being Justice, who was a gunslinger cowboy type character. Afro, of course, witnessing his father's defeat kind of scarred him, mentally, and it caused him to go on a path of revenge to avenge his father and defeat Justice in the end, along with a whole bunch of other stuff that he has to go through until he finally makes it to defeat Justice at the end of the story. Um, the book, the anime, and the video game. Yes, there were 2 video games. Um, all have different endings, and that was intentional. There's an interview that Mr. Ozaki talks about why he had every piece of media kind of different from each other. I won't get into all that. Maybe I'll do that. I'll talk about that, what he said in that interview, when I talk about the movie or the TV show. But yeah, I love Afro Samurai. Awesome, awesome character. Anime still slaps. Came out in, I believe, 2007. Um, if I if I'm talking with friends or if I'm like talking to someone who may be a potential partner down the line, and they're into anime, I always try to encourage people like go give this anime a watch. Just watch like the pilot or the first episode and just get your feet wet and see if you want to go further. Like I always try to put people on the Afro Samurai, um, because we don't have a lot of black main characters in anime, unfortunately. So, but anyway, this was directed by Kenneth Mater. I'm not sure how to say his last name. Who's done other work. I think his last film may have been 2016, which is really neat. Um, so why do I consider Flesh and Bone lost media? Well, I can't find it. I There's an IMDb page for it. It shows a synopsis of the movie, what it's about, the director, the cast, but there's no evidence of footage or anything. No trailer. It's not on YouTube. I've looked. I have not found this fan film anywhere. All I have found is the IMDb page, which really, really sucks because there are other Afro fan films. Like there's one that was made some years ago where where anyone who's familiar with Samurai Champloo and a lot of people who've seen Afro Samurai would say, Samurai Champloo, like they're kind of similar. Maybe not like a narrative, but like the vibe and that hip hop, the hip hop culture, they kind of have that in common. So someone did a fan film where Afro Samurai met the characters from Samurai Champloo, and they kind of had a little fight, and then they had to work together to fight like some assassins or bandits or something. Really cool. You can just just go to YouTube and type up Afro Samurai fan film. You should find it. And there were a few others, but this was the first one. And like I said, this was showed at a film festival. You see behind me. Um, so yeah, it says the world's first live action Afro Samurai film, and I can't find it. The only evidence I have or we have of this film is, like I said, the IMDb, and there's a video on YouTube. I'm not sure if it was the director's personal YouTube channel, but there is a video where he's talking about the fan film and why they wanted to make it and all those other interesting facts. And yeah, that's it. We do see like a brief sequence of footage from the fan film and the interview. Um, like I said, that's it, and that really sucks. Like, I'm assuming does the director have a copy, and he just hasn't uploaded it to YouTube, or it really bothers me. And I think I just stumbled upon this randomly one day, like when I was younger, just looking for Afro Samurai content. I randomly stumbled upon that interview. Um, yeah. So, what was the story for this fan film? Well, excuse me, from what I read, apparently this takes place, I guess, before the end of the series, so before Afro defeats or fights Justice in the end. He comes across this village which is being harassed by bandits or assassins or something. I think they were bandits. And since, like I said, Afro's passing through, I guess the people of the village, rather he steps in on his own to help, or they ask him, excuse me, to help them. He agrees to it, and he saves the village, defeats the bad guys, and goes on his way. I think that's cool, honestly. It's simple, but it works. That simplicity, kind of works for Afro's character and the world of Afro Samurai, because uh in the show, and oh yeah, in the manga as well, we don't really Afro's more of an anti-hero. I mean, he's not evil, like he's not, going around K-wording, women and children and elderly people. He's not K-wording innocent people. He's only K-wording people who challenge him. Um, so, or people who, get in the way of, his goal, his mission. So, so if you're not doing any of those two things, then you don't have to worry about, Afro K-wording you. But if you do, yeah, you're gonna catch those hands. So again, it's cool to kind of see that, see that side of his character, like him doing something nice and trying to help people and be more of a heroic figure than this, evil individual who just, brings chaos wherever they go. So again, that would have been really, really cool to see. So like I said, it's just, oh man, maybe it'll resurface one day, but it's been almost 10 years, and it's not online. If anyone has any information on this, or any type of, leads or anything, if anyone can get in contact with the director, maybe I might try to see if he has like a social media or something, like Facebook, Instagram, something like that. Get in touch with him and see if we can get a response, and see if we can have this, be uploaded to like YouTube or something. Because like I said, I want to see this, for this to be the first live action fan film, and for it to have been, well received. Yeah, as a fan, I want to see this. I definitely want to see this. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. Afro Samurai Flesh and Bone, Lost Media. Uh, hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned a little something. Yeah, stay tuned for more. Peace, you guys. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here doing another another B horror movie anthology video. Yes, this is Satan's Storybook, which came out in 1989. This was directed by I think his name was Michael Ryder. I know it's something Ryder. I may have I may not remember his first name, but okay. So the company that produced this movie, I believe at the time were like well known for making low budget films. And this anthology is very low budget. If you have seen my Night Terror movie review, which I think that came out in like the mid 80s, I think. Um, that was a low budget horror movie, but it had its charm. Like it was very charming for what it was. Or if you saw my, I think it was Freak Show movie, horror movie anthology. Again, that one had some interesting ideas, but the execution wasn't really all that great. Or Grim Prairie Tales with um, Brad Dourif, the actor who played Chucky, and um, and James Earl Jones. That movie, uh, so like I said, Grim Prairie Tales again had some interesting ideas, but poor execution. Satan's Storybook is kind of like that too. Like low budget, the stories were just kind of okay. Um, the only actor or actress I'm familiar with in this movie is Ginger Lynn. She's an adult, keyword adult film star. I think she's from Canada. I'm not sure if she's a Canadian adult film star, but an adult film star. Um, yeah, so she's been in another kind of B movie type movie, another horror B movie as well, playing a news anchor, which is very interesting. But like I said, Ginger Lynn, very attractive lady. She's the only person I'm familiar with in this movie. Um, so yeah, the opening is kind of weird. Like I think it opens up with these two females. One of them is Ginger Lynn in like a forest, and I don't know if like the other female character is trying to fight Satan or not. I'm not entirely sure. And maybe her and Ginger Lynn decide to work together. Um, and then we cut to, because you can see some of the images behind me. Then we cut to Satan, which the Satan costume. I feel bad saying his name because I'm superstitious. The Satan costume or the devil costume is really good. Yeah, the for the most part, the practical effects in this movie were decent. And he opens up this big giant book, which Satan's storybook. Again, the whole concept is just it works. It's there. The concept is there. It's just the execution and the quality is low budget, and that's unfortunate. It does kind of hold the movie back, but um, yeah. So I can't remember the first story because I saw this a while ago. I think this killer gets inside the house of a couple, and I guess I don't know if she's supposed to be like like their 20-year-old daughter who practices witchcraft, which is interesting. He K words, well, I guess kind of spoiler, I won't say that, but it doesn't end well for the family all that much, and I think the daughter puts like a curse on him because, like I said, she practices witchcraft. She puts a curse on him, and like I said, his story kind of continues. Um, so yeah. So the first story, it's okay. It's interesting. Um, the second one, so I think the first one, yeah, is about the killer and the people's house. So this image you see right here. Um, the the next one is I'm trying to point at it is with the clown you see in the right hand side. Yeah, so the clown basically he's an actor. He does a lot of shows for like children. He's I guess he's fallen on hard times. He's not really happy with his life or where he is right at that point in time. All he does is kind of like drink before getting on stage and all types of crazy stuff like that. So I think he ends up, which I guess this is pretty dark. he ends up K-wording himself, I guess. Uh, he kind of gives it away if you look at the picture thoroughly enough. Um, and then I guess before he goes rather to heaven or the underworld, he is another clown shows up, which I guess in a way this clown is kind of like equivalent to the Grim Reaper, I guess. Um, and it takes a weird and kind of creepy turn from there when this other clown shows up. So, yeah, story number two again. It's okay. Um, and then I think the last story is the story with the two with Ginger Lynn's character and the two and the other female character and Satan. Uh, and I can't remember if we get like a fight. I think we do. So yeah, in total, I think there are three. So there are three stories: the main story, the story about the killer, and the story about the clown. Um, Again, if you like super obscure and low budget films, then I think you would like this one. It's kind of something you would just have on in the background, like you're doing whether you're doing chores, you're doing work at home, or whatever you like to do around the house. This is something you would just kind of have in the play in the background. Again, I think the concept it was there, but the execution and like I said, the budget was not. Um, but yeah, I mean, Satan's Storybook, it's cool. It's cool for what it is. Like I said, I like the practical effects. I thought the cast did okay. You know, um, yeah, it's on YouTube and it's on Tubi. So, give it a watch if you're interested. Um, there is another one I'm probably going to do right after this one. I like to do my record my reviews like in one setting. Um, there's another one called Campfire Tales, and that one is slightly better. That's a weird one. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But like, comment, follow, and stay tuned for more. Peace, you guys. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another Marvel oriented video review, another X-Men oriented video review. Again, I don't know if you want to consider this a re-review. I am talking about Pride of the X-Men for a second time. Yes, last year, I believe, I did a trivia video talking about the very first X-Men animated feature that was intended to be a show. For reasons, I guess because of financial reasons, it got shelved, and then luckily, a couple years later, we got the '90s show, which lasted for 5 seasons. Um, so this came out, I believe, in like the '80s, like like late '80s, like '88, '87, or something like that. Um, this is cool. Like I said, this is an awesome piece of Marvel slash X-Men media that's definitely worth watching. You can watch it in like an hour. It got a VHS release, and I think it was like when they re-released the '90s show. I think this was added like special features or whatever. So again, really cool. The most cool thing about this pilot is I don't know if I can really say the pilot itself. This pilot got a video game from Konami. Konami, same people who I believe own Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, um, I believe Castlevania. So a lot of three heavy hitter franchises. Yeah, we got an arcade game which I played hundreds of times. One of my favorite. When it comes to video games, I'm really into beat 'em up games. So yeah, beat 'em up arcade games are my bread and butter. But yeah, we got an arcade game, which so the sprites and the enemies and the bosses were all taken from Pride of the X-Men, basically, and that's really cool. So it's kind of weird, like the video game outlived, in a sense, it's outlived the pilot. Like, it's more well known than the pilot itself, which is kind of crazy. Um, I apologize. This is like the best picture I could find, like good quality, picture of the characters. And behind this yellow and white, silver, whatever that's supposed to be behind them, behind that is Magneto. Magneto, was supposed to be behind them. So, in case you were interested, yes, is the original X-Men animated feature. So yeah, what is this about basically? Well, we have Kitty Pryde as basically I guess the character the audience relates to. Um, so she's being introduced. She goes to Professor X's mansion, the Institute for Gifted Youngsters or whatever, Gifted Youth, whatever it's called, and Professor X welcomes her in, and she eventually meets the X-Men, and of course she's kind of like blown away, like wow, like y'all are like mutant superheroes, Of course, Wolverine's not really fond of her, which is kind of ironic because throughout the comics they have had like a father daughter kind of relationship. In this version, so no Jean Grey, no Beast, no Gambit, no Rogue. Those were four characters who made up um, most of the cast in the '90s show, along with Cyclops, Wolverine, and Storm. Instead, we get Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Dazzler, um, Nightcrawler, and Colossus. Dazzler, I actually really like her. I think she's a cool character. I'm not sure like how to describe her powers, but I think they're like energy based, and I really like this look for her. And she's playable in the game, so that's cool too. Yeah, we got Dazzler. And we got Wolverine in his brown costume, which is really dope. So basically, I can't remember, like, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants causes some type of ruckus or chaos, and Professor X wants them to look into it. I think while they're away, trying to, stop the Brotherhood or figure out what's going on, I think they attack the mansion and kidnap Professor X and Kitty, I think. Um, yeah, there are some inaccuracies, like Brotherhood. Like Emma Frost is part of the Brotherhood in this animated feature. She is part of the Hellfire Club in the comics and in the '90s show. I don't think she was ever affiliated with the Brotherhood. I could be wrong. Um, so yeah, uh, but like I said, there's some inaccuracies, but it's not that big of a deal to me, honestly. I mean, um, yeah, so like I said, Kitty and Professor X get kidnapped. X-Men fight the Brotherhood. They eventually confront Magneto. Um, I think, well, there's kind of a spoiler. I won't spoil. Something happens to Nightcrawler, uh, and yeah, I think we kind of get a happy ending, but it's kind of like that looming threat of Magneto and his minions are still out there. Like we see that towards the end, like oh they're still out there. This battle, this endless battle between good and evil will continue. Um, and that's basically it. Like I said, it's for what it is. It's fun. It's colorful. I like the voice cast. The story is okay for what it is. I mean, yeah. I just do I think it was a good thing it got canceled? It got axed? I mean, I don't know. Like if we got this, we wouldn't have gotten the '90s show, So and the '90s show was really really good. Really, towards the end, it kind of the quality kind of went down a little bit, but um, I mean, like I said, this is still a fun piece of X-Men media. It's worth, it's definitely worth your time if you're a fan and maybe you weren't familiar with it, or maybe you were familiar with the arcade game and you didn't know it was based off a animated pilot from the late '80s. Um, so yeah, go give Pride of the X-Men a watch. It's available on YouTube for free. And if you haven't played the arcade game, you can download an emulator so you can play it on your phone for free. So yeah, give this a watch and go play the game. Peace, you guys. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another horror anthology movie review. This time on a I think I would consider this fairly obscure. I think the only way I found out about it was someone mentioned it in the YouTube comment section on another movie, Campfire Tales. Yeah, this is good. This came out in '91. This was directed by Paul Talbot and William Cook. The only, I think, well-known actor who was in this movie that I'm aware of is I think it may have been the actor who played the original Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I could be wrong, but it's one of the actors who played Leatherface. So that's pretty cool. So what is this about? Also, if you're interested, you could watch this on YouTube. I'm not sure if it's on any streaming service because of how obscure it is, but it might be on like Tubi or something. You can just Google for yourself. Um, Basically, we have three friends who are maybe like high school, early like freshmen in high school, late middle school, whatever, camping by themselves. Very, very dangerous. um, that did not age well at all. Um, and eventually, kind of a hobo-ish looking man, who I think is played by the actor who played Leatherface, asks if he could sit by their fire and, warm himself up. Of course, they're like, "You're a stranger. Hell no, we're not comfortable with you being here." You know, stuff like that. So eventually, the three friends kind of agree, like, all right, I guess you could stay here for maybe like 30 minutes or whatever. And he offers to tell them some ghost stories or whatever. And they're like, sure, like they're like, all right, sure, fuck it. So the first story, and yeah, I mean, again, kind of like with Satan's Storybook, if you saw that review, um, this is kind of the same. They, um, get my words mixed up. It's low budget. Like the concept is here, but the quality and the budget is not. So another low budget horror anthology. Um, Try to remember. So the first story is about a couple in a car. They were on a date. This story is based off an old urban legend about an escaped mental patient, I guess, who had a hook for a hand or something. And when the couple hear it on the radio, and the girlfriend is not comfortable, wants to go home, and the boyfriend eventually takes her home. And rather, when she gets out of the car, or when he gets out of the car, he sees like the hook dangling from the car door. This is in the original urban legend story. Um, but I think in this version, the the killer ends up getting into the girl's home, and it kind of becomes like a mini slasher movie, basically. It was okay. It was cool. Uh, the second one was about, I think, some two friends trying to get some weed or drugs or something, and I can't remember if there was like a zombie involved. The second one's kind of a blur. I can remember parts of it, but I don't remember specifically what the story was. In total, I think there's like four stories. Um, Story number three is about, I think, like an uncle. He was babysitting his niece and nephew or something for Christmas, and somehow he ended up on the naughty list, and like a demonic, evil Santa came to punish him or something. Um, so a Halloween, I mean, a Christmas horror story. Okay, that was cool. Story number three was cool. It was interesting. Um, Story number four is about a pirate. I think he's a pirate captain. I'm not sure. He's maybe he buried his treasure, or he's trying to find buried treasure on this island. The island is like cursed or something, and there's like zombie pirates on the island, and uh, stuff happens. I don't remember the conclusion. Like I said, I saw this a while ago. I don't remember the conclusion of the last story. And then, of course, in between these stories, we cut back to the three boys and the hobo man, and we kind of get a plot twist at the end. So I don't know if that's if it's like a good, I don't know if that's like a bad ending or open ended ending. I kind of don't like the ending a little bit. um, but I won't spoil what happens. So again, Campfire Tales, like with Satan's Storybook, if you like obscure horror anthologies or obscure horror movies, period, this is definitely worth watching. You know, again, something you have playing in the background. Um, if you've seen what's that movie, that horror anthology Trick or Treat, for like late mid 2000s, you're not gonna get that. You're not gonna get that type of anthology, or the Creep Show movies or Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. You're not gonna get that same type of charm. Uh, yeah, go give Campfire Tales a watch if you're interested. Check it out. Peace, you guys. Hey, your friendly neighborhood geek here, doing another horror anthology. Probably the last one for a little bit until I find one worth talking about or watching one worth talking about. Dead Time Stories. This was directed by Jeffrey Dowman. This came out in 1986. It's considered R rated, and it's considered horror and comedy because there are some comedy elements in this. Um, yeah, I saw this randomly maybe like a year ago or a couple years ago on YouTube. Really enjoyed it. There's only three stories, which is fine. Excuse me. So basically, the movie is about starts off with this little boy. He's being babysat by his uncle. He keeps hollering and shouting for his uncle to come upstairs. And he's trying to tell his uncle like there's a monster in my room. Hmm. And the uncle is kind of like, kind of irritated, like go to bed, like you know how late it is. So the uncle tries to tell him stories to help him go to sleep. Three very inappropriate stories. So the first one is about a boy. I guess the first one kind of takes place during medieval time. This young man, he is owned by two female witches, I think, who are trying to resurrect their sister or the head witch. They plan on sacrificing a girl in order to resurrect the witch. Of course, the boy, him and the girl work together. I guess he kind of falls for her, and he helps her escape, and they work together to K-word, I guess, all the witches, or at least escape, the witches. So story number one, from what I remember, cool, interesting, fairly creative. Story number two, which might be my favorite, is like is somewhat based off Red Riding Hood. This girl, Red Riding Hood's like a 20-year-old. This girl, she's going to see her grandmother. I think she was going to go pick up some medicine for her and bring it to her house. She ends up picking up the wrong medicine. On the way to grandma's house, she meets a werewolf, but she doesn't know he's a werewolf yet. And we see the werewolf basically try to K-word grandma, Red Riding Hood, and a few miscellaneous other people. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to watch. It's low budget, but it's a lot of fun to watch. It had a very solid plot twist at the end of that story, which I won't spoil, of course. So yeah, the Red Riding Hood story, again, entertaining. And every time we finish a story, we cut back to the nephew and the uncle. Story number three, which is really wild. Uh, it's basically a parody of Goldilocks and Three Bears, but Goldilocks is a psychotic sociopath. Basically, it's like, okay, if you had Harley Quinn from DC and you gave her the powers of like Jean Grey from the X-Men from Marvel, Marvel Girl, whatever you want to call her, like how dangerous of a combination that together, like Harley's sanity mixed with Jean Grey's superpowers. Oh my God, that would be that would be such a bad that would be a terrible combination. Like, it's basically what Goldilocks is. She's crazy. She has these psychic powers. Um, yeah. And the three bears aren't bears; they're actual people: Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Baby Bear. They were, I guess, um, criminals, and they're on the run. And they eventually come across Goldilocks, and they decide to, or Goldilocks decides to um, team up with them. Baby Bear starts to fall for her. I don't remember how this one ends, but it's a weird one. It's a weird, wacky, wild, zany one. Um, so yeah, that is Dead Time Stories. Um, and then at the end, it cuts back to the uncle and the nephew for one last time, and it doesn't end well for the nephew. Of course, I won't spoil it. Again, this is 1986, so it's a lot of fun. It's this has a higher budget than Campfire Tales and Satan's Storybook. Again, it's just charming. It says Dead Time Stories you'll pray for dawn. Okay, I don't get that one. I don't get that title, but um, oh, your most terrifying nightmares come to life. Dead Time Stories you'll pray for dawn. I still don't get it, but uh, again, yeah, this is a fun one. It's on YouTube. Give it a watch. Check it out. I recommend it. It's worth your time if you love horror anthologies or you love horror movies from this period. I've mentioned before I love 80s horror, so yeah. But yeah, go give uh, Dead Time Stories a watch. Check it out. Peace, guys.